102 miles. That is the length of a single bridge in China. And that sounds impossible until you realize the entire United States has never built a bridge even a quarter that long. The longest one America has, the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway in Louisiana, stretches about 24 miles. It was finished in 1956. And in the nearly 70 years since, America has not built anything longer. China built their 102-mile bridge in 4 years, 10,000 workers, finished on schedule, opened in 2011, and most Americans have never even heard of it. Here is what nobody wants to say out loud. This is not a competition anymore. Somewhere over the last 2 decades, America stopped building, and China started building things that seem to belong in the next century. I have been tracking global mega projects on this channel for a long time, and when I actually sat down with the numbers from China's last 20 years of infrastructure, the gap is not just wide, it is embarrassing. So today I am walking through 10 Chinese mega projects that prove the US is 50 years behind. The facts, the dates, the direct comparisons, stay with me. Because number 3 is the one that made me genuinely stop and rewrite this whole video. Let me start with something simple. An airport. Beijing Daxing. Opened September 25th, 2019. Groundbreaking was December 2014. That is under 5 years from dirt to runway. The main terminal alone covers 700,000 square meters. It is the largest single-building airport terminal in the world. Now compare that to Los Angeles. LAX has been in a modernization program since around 2017. The total cost of that overhaul has climbed past $30 billion. The centerpiece of it is a 2.25-mile train called the Automated People Mover. It was supposed to open in 2023, then 2024, then December 2025. As of early 2026, it is still not carrying passengers. The disputes with the contractor alone have added close to $880 million to the original cost. And here is the thing people miss. Daxing was not just an airport. China built a dedicated high-speed rail line to it, a new subway line, and a new expressway, all in parallel, all opened the same week. America cannot move at that speed anymore. It is not a money problem, it is a system problem. Deep in the mountains of Guizhou province sits a dish 500 meters wide. That is the diameter of 5 football fields end to end. It is called FAST, the 500-meter aperture spherical telescope. Locals call it the Sky Eye. And it is the largest single-dish radio telescope ever built. Here is what it can actually do. FAST has discovered over 1,150 new pulsars since it came online. That is more pulsars than every other radio telescope on Earth has found combined. It is nearly 3 times more sensitive than any telescope that came before it. Now here is the comparison that should sting. America's iconic radio telescope was Arecibo in Puerto Rico. For 53 years, it held the record as the largest in the world. In December 2020, the cables holding up the receiver platform snapped. The 900-ton instrument crashed into the dish below. Arecibo was finished. And America did not rebuild it. The National Science Foundation announced the site would be dismantled. The largest radio telescope the United States had ever built was allowed to die. China built something bigger and more sensitive in 5 years of construction, and they did it while Arecibo was still standing. At Shanghai Pudong Airport, there is a train that does not touch its track. The Shanghai Maglev floats 10 millimeters above an electromagnetic guideway. When it launched in 2003, it ran at a commercial top speed of 431 kilometers per hour. That is 268 miles per hour. It covered the 30-kilometer distance to Longyang Road Station in 7 minutes and 20 seconds. Today, it typically runs at a capped 300 kilometers per hour, which is still 186 miles per hour. That is faster than anything Amtrak has ever put on a track. Speaking of Amtrak, in August 2025, they finally launched the next-gen Acela, the fastest train America has ever operated. Its top speed is 160 miles per hour, and even that, it can only reach on a handful of stretches along the Northeast Corridor. For most of its route, the Acela is stuck behind commuter trains and runs closer to 75 miles per hour. Then there is California High-Speed Rail, approved by voters in 2008. Original budget, $33 billion. 17 years later, not a single mile of track is operational. The cost estimate has now climbed to $126 billion. Officials now say it will not reach the Bay Area until the 2030s at the earliest. While California argues, China has built over 50,000 kilometers of high-speed rail as of the end of 2025. That is more than the rest of the world combined. On the Yangtze River sits the largest hydroelectric power station ever built. The Three Gorges Dam has 32 main generators. Each one produces 700 megawatts. Total installed capacity, 22,500 megawatts. The reservoir behind it stretches 600 kilometers upstream. The dam wall is 185 meters tall and 2.3 kilometers long. It is the biggest object holding back water anywhere on planet Earth. America's most iconic dam is Hoover, built between 1931 and 1936. Legendary piece of engineering. Still standing, still producing power. Hoover generates 2,080 megawatts. Three Gorges produces roughly 10 times more, but the dam itself is just one piece. Three Gorges also has a 5-stage ship lock system that lifts vessels 113 meters in elevation, and next to that, a massive ship lift that can raise a 3,000-ton vessel over the dam in about 40 minutes. That ship lift was only completed in 2015. It has no equivalent anywhere in the Americas. The United States has not built a major hydroelectric dam of that scale since Grand Coulee was finished in 1942. That is 80 years. China has built more than 20 dams larger than Hoover in just the last 30. This one sounds like something out of science fiction. China is physically moving water across its own country, from the wet, humid south to the dry, industrial north, through a network of canals, aqueducts, and tunnels stretching more than 1,400 kilometers. It is the largest water transfer project in human history. The idea was first proposed by Mao Zedong in 1952. Actual construction began in 2002. The eastern and central routes are now delivering tens of billions of cubic meters of water every year, directly to cities like Beijing and Tianjin. Estimated total cost so far is over $79 billion, and it is still being expanded. America's comparison is not pretty. California has been losing water to drought for 2 decades. The California Aqueduct, built in the 1960s, is actually sinking in places because of groundwater depletion. The federal Central Valley project is older than most of the engineers trying to maintain it. And the political fights over Colorado River allocation have been deadlocked for years. China is moving rivers. America is arguing over pipes. At 5,072 meters above sea level, there is a train line that should not work. The Qinghai-Tibet Railway connects Xining in the east to Lhasa, the capital of Tibet. It crosses the Tibetan Plateau, where oxygen is so thin that most outsiders pass out within hours. Winter temperatures hit -45°C, and much of the route sits on permafrost that shifts with the seasons. Here is why it should not have been possible. Permafrost melts when you put a heavy steel train on top of it. Pipes freeze solid. Steel rails become brittle at those temperatures. And human passengers go into altitude sickness above 4,000 meters. China engineered their way around every single one of those problems. The train cars are pressurized like airplanes. Oxygen is piped into every carriage. The track sits on a specially designed cooling system that keeps the permafrost frozen underneath, and the entire line was built in 5 years. America's highest railroad is the Cumbres and Toltec in Colorado, topping out at around 3,050 meters. It is a tourist train. It runs 6 months a year. The gap is not just in scale. It is in ambition. In the Pearl River Delta, there is a 55-kilometer sea crossing that combines a bridge, an underwater tunnel, and 4 artificial islands. The Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge opened in October 2018. 9 years of construction. Cost estimates land between 18 and 20 billion US dollars. It is the longest sea crossing on the planet. Here is what makes it an engineering achievement and not just a long bridge. Halfway through, the road dives into a 6.7-kilometer immersed tube tunnel. 33 giant concrete segments, each weighing 80,000 tons, were floated out to sea and sunk into precisely excavated trenches 45 meters below the water. Above, ships pass overhead through one of the busiest shipping lanes in the world. The bridge is built to survive 340 km/h typhoon winds and magnitude 8 earthquakes. It is designed to last 120 years. America's most ambitious sea crossing is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel in Virginia. It is 28 kilometers long, finished in 1964, an incredible piece of engineering for its time. In the 60 years since, America has not attempted anything close to this scale. Proposals? Yes. Studies? Yes. Actual construction? No. But number 3 is where it stops being about scale and starts being about speed. This one opened on June 30th, 2024. And it is the reason engineers around the world are now openly saying the US regulatory system cannot keep up. The Shenzhen-Zhongshan link is a 24-kilometer sea crossing connecting 2 major cities on opposite sides of the Pearl River Delta. It combines a 6.7-kilometer immersed tunnel, the world's highest sea crossing bridge, and 2 artificial islands. Total cost, about 6 billion US dollars. Construction time, 7 years. Here is what I want you to sit with. The tunnel underneath this thing is 8 lanes wide. It is the world's first 8-lane undersea steel shell concrete immersed tunnel. Each section weighs 80,000 tons and had to be aligned underwater within millimeters. China used their own domestic Beidou satellite navigation system to do it. The Americans have never attempted a tunnel project on this scale. The closest thing, the Chesapeake Bay Tunnel from the 1960s, uses tunnel segments a small fraction of the size. What the Shenzhen-Zhongshan link actually proves is this: China is no longer just matching Western engineering. They are inventing techniques the West has never used, at a pace the West cannot physically permit, let alone build. And it is only going to get bigger. The longest bridge on planet Earth is 164.8 kilometers long. That is 102.4 miles. It is called the Danyang-Kunshan Grand Bridge. It is not a road bridge. It is a high-speed rail viaduct carrying the Beijing-Shanghai bullet train line across the Yangtze River Delta. Rice paddies, wetlands, rivers, lakes, cities. The bridge crosses over all of it. One 9-kilometer section sits directly over Yangcheng Lake. It was built in 4 years, 10,000 workers, $8.5 billion. Opened in June 2011. It holds the Guinness World Record as the longest bridge in any category on Earth and has held it for nearly 15 years. Now compare Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, Louisiana, longest bridge in the United States, 38.4 kilometers, 23.8 miles, finished in 1956. In the 70 years since Pontchartrain opened, the US has not built a single bridge longer than that. China built one more than 4 times longer in less than a single presidential term. This is the stat that made me want to make this video, because when you lay it out flat like that, it stops being an opinion about which country is doing better. It becomes a measurement. And the measurement is not close. The number one is not a single project. It is an entire city. Chongqing has about 32 million people. It is built on mountains. It is split by two major rivers, and the infrastructure in that city is genuinely unlike anything in the Western world. Highways run through the middle of apartment buildings. The metro literally passes through the 6th floor of a residential tower at Elizabeth Station. There are buildings where the street-level entrance is on floor 22 because the terrain drops that far. Bridges stack on top of bridges. The whole city looks like it was designed by someone who watched Blade Runner and took it as a challenge. Here is the part most people miss. Almost all of this was built in the last 25 years. Chongqing has more elevated highway per square kilometer than New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago combined. And they built it on terrain that was actively fighting them. Mountains, floods, earthquakes, 40-degree summer heat. America has not built a new major city from scratch in over a century. Not one. Every US city has been incrementally added to, argued over, and slowed down by regulation for decades. Meanwhile, Chongqing went from a regional industrial town to a science fiction skyline in the span of a generation. That is what 50 years behind actually looks like. It is not in one project. It is in the baseline of what a country is physically capable of building. So here is where things stand. In 2026, while America argues about fixing one bridge, China has built the 10 projects I just walked through, plus hundreds more I did not have time for. The high-speed rail network alone now exceeds 50,000 kilometers. The second tallest skyscraper in the world is Chinese. The busiest port in the world is Chinese. The longest bridge is Chinese. The largest power station is Chinese. The largest airport terminal is Chinese. The gap is not closing. It is widening every single year. The question is not whether America can catch up. The question is whether America can stop falling further behind. Here is what momentum does. Every new project China completes makes the next one easier. Every new technique they develop becomes the default. The gap compounds, and right now it is compounding against the United States. Now I want your prediction. Will America ever build a mega project on this scale again in your lifetime? Yes or no? Drop it in the comments. I read every single one. If this breakdown gave you a clearer picture of what is actually happening in global infrastructure, subscribe. Because the next time China crosses another engineering line the West said was impossible, you are going to want to see it the moment it happens. The numbers are public, the dates are on record, and the race, honestly, is already over.